And look who's early.
Hey, what's happening?
Damn, man.
I love our format where the late individual gets the most abuse. No matter who that person is.
You're right. You're on time. How you doing, man?
I feel amazing. How are you?
Good. A lot of politics stuff going on here in Philly.
Yeah, I know, right?
What's going on with you?
Man, I just, hosted an event for Fight for Democracy. We're planning to go to 4 different cities across the state in the closing days, trying to win Georgia. That's what's up with me.
Georgia's looks like it's definitely in play, right?
Yeah, we can win Georgia. We just have to, have a really good game. But I feel like the pieces are in place. I think that, the split between resources related to North Carolina and Georgia, I feel like there's a resource split that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I'm a team player.
Yeah, well, Mark Robinson.
Yeah, but I would be inclined towards the state that I won. That's just me, though. I mean,
it's a good point.
I understand trying to flip North Carolina, but you won one and you've had a black male Democrat U.S. senator get elected 3 times in a row. So yeah. I think the fundamentals, if you were making a decision about, first of all, the resources there to do both. I'm trying to win Georgia.
That would be great. Yeah, I'm really worried about us here in Pennsylvania. It's this is where the choice of Josh Shapiro, and I've loved Tim Walz, but the choice of Josh Shapiro would have probably taken Pennsylvania off the map.
Yeah.
And now we're just waiting on the mayor. There it is.
There he is.
That picture of his is like when he was rapping, I think. Mixmaster Mike.
The DJ and the mayor.
Mr. Mayor. Okay. You the man, thanks. All right, he had to restart his computer, so it'll be a minute or two.
Yeah.
Welcome to this episode of How to Really Run a City, our deep dive into the mystery and mastery of big city leadership. I'm Larry Platt of the Philadelphia Citizen, a nonprofit, nonpartisan media organization that seeks to reinvigorate democracy in the American city where it was born. Check us out at thephiladelphiacitizen.org. How to Really Run a City features 2 accomplished practitioners of the art of urban changemaking, former 2-term Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed and former 2-term Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter. If you've listened to past episodes, you know the drill. If you're frustrated by the finger pointing and bickering coming from Washington, D.C., this podcast is for you. There are really 3 political parties in America, these mayors will tell you: Democrats, Republicans, and mayors, who have no choice but to be practical problem solvers. In today's episode, we'll talk with Delaware's John Carney, who is doing something we've rarely seen. He's a 2-term governor running to be mayor of Wilmington, Delaware. He's fresh off a big primary win, and the mayors will explore with Governor Carney his rationale for seeking this office, and maybe even give him some insight as former mayors as to what he's in for. They'll also talk about one particular dead tree that he is set on cutting down as soon as he becomes mayor. Here's the latest episode of How to Really Run a City. You know what? Since the governor's here, we'll dive right in with him.
Let's get to it.
Hi, Governor. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Governor John Carney of this great state of Delaware is doing something very rare. A chief executive of a state is now going to be the next mayor of Wilmington, Delaware, going from governor to mayor. Welcome, Governor. Have you caught the bug of being a mayor? As Mayor Reed and Nutter always talk about it being the best job in America. It sounds like you've bought into that.
Well, I've certainly heard that from current mayors and prior mayors. I've always thought about it. Frankly, I come from a public service, a focused career. My father and mother were both school teachers. My dad worked in what was the old Wilmington Public School District, and we'll get to that because it's an important part of my consideration here, until the federal court broke the district up and desegregated the district. I grew up observing that, and then as governor, tried to address the education of the children in our city, which is not effective, frankly, and it's really a disgrace. And one of the strong motivators, So as I was thinking about what to do next, I can't run for governor again. I was really looking to do something in public service, and particularly something that focused on things that I had worked on as governor. And a lot of that includes the city of Wilmington. It's a small city it's no Atlanta, it's no Philadelphia. We're 75,000 strong, maybe a couple miles in any direction. I've lived here, didn't grow up here, but lived here now for almost 40 years. I joke with people, I had to become governor in order
to
get elected mayor of Wilmington,
yeah.
Which is pretty true, frankly. It really is.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard in campaigning, obviously, even in a small state like Delaware, there's a big difference between campaigning for mayor or state representative district or something like that than it is statewide. I mean, you're not knocking on a lot of doors when you're running statewide. Well, I knocked on about 11,000 doors running for mayor of Wilmington, and really it's a very different experience. It was kind of an uplifting experience because most of these people, we only knocked on doors on Democrats because it was a primary, and so they have voted for me, some of them 9 times before.
Wow.
And it was, if nothing else, an affirmation of the good work that we've been able to do. Because even if some said, look, I'm not going to vote for you this time, but I voted for you 9 times before.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good that they believe in you to do the work you've done. And so,
Governor, I want to probe on that a little bit. Like, I actually want to take our listeners inside of your process. I mean, you're governor of the state. I really want to go through the I'm going to do it play-by-play process.
Yeah.
Because we have practitioners and we have people who aspire to be in public service. And I want to give some insight into how you end up at a decision about making the run you're running.
Yeah. So you all both know, I'm sure, that running for office is timing, right?
Yes.
And, I don't run if the current mayor decides to run. And he doesn't step down unless I step up, if that makes any sense. Or,
yes.
we did make an effort to convince others to run. Some of the young fellows that worked for me, and actually one guy who worked for me who had been one of the mayor's opponents in his recent elections, and weren't able to convince anybody to do it. And so, folks knew that I had, expressed that kind of interest many, many years ago. And so they asked if I was interested. And I said, well, look, I'm not going to run if you're running. And so you got to tell me in order for me to make that. And he kept saying, well, I'm not going to not run unless you run. So it got to be this back and forth. I wanted to do something meaningful, frankly. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to go back to Washington. I had spent 6 years there. And so I just felt like with all the different things I'd worked on, this was the most meaningful. And it also, builds on something my father did, and that was important to me. I'm excited about it. And knocking on all those doors, just demonstrated something that I guess I knew in my gut, but this is way different. I mean, this is way different.
Yeah.
And I have been trying to get a dead tree cut down in a woman's backyard for 2 months.
That tree is going down, baby.
That tree is going down if it's the last damn thing that I do. I'm telling you.
Oh, he's got the fighting spirit in him, that's for sure.
I should note that Mayor Nutter is with us. Welcome, Mayor Nutter. You're looking sharp.
Well, thank you. We do this podcast, and Governor, so great to see you. When you're doing anything with Kasim Reed, you just have to step it up a certain level. I've been in my car, I've been in a hotel lobby, T-shirt, and I said, today I'm just not going to get outclassed by Kasim Reed, and I'm going to put a regular shirt on and a jacket. The governor, soon to be the mayor, and I'm just determined. And then my Zoom wouldn't work right, and my computer failed me. In 15 minutes, I've been trying to sign into this thing. So I'm sorry. Sorry I'm late. I should have done it from the car.
It probably would have worked flawlessly.
I don't have this many problems.
Well, I'm really excited and honored to be with you, Mayor Nutter. You know, we think of Philadelphia very close. My father grew up in West Philadelphia, graduate of West Catholic and St. Joe's, and
there you go.
You're one of. I feel like you're one of us down here in Delaware, and I followed you when you were mayor, and followed everything happened in Philadelphia. We have to because we get all your news down here. We don't get any of our own news.
I have a huge constituency in northern Delaware. They really do love me down there. I never raised the taxes. Did not pick up the trash, move the snow or anything else. They really love me down there.
They really do. That is true.
The flip side of that is Senator Joe Biden was always considered the third senator from Pennsylvania when he was in office, and that closeness and that relationship really does go back and forth, whether it's on 95 or on Amtrak. The relationship between Philadelphia, southeastern Pennsylvania, and certainly Delaware is very, very strong. You know, you're to be commended. This is interesting. Do we have many examples of governors going to becoming mayor?
Jerry Brown went from governor of California to mayor of
Oakland.
Some predicted that Brown, a former governor and presidential candidate, would quickly lose interest in local politics. He has become the city's #1 pitchman.
You see sun here. If you look over there and you can put your camera there, it's a bunch of fog right there. See that fog? That's winter in San Francisco while it's summer in Oakland. We got to make that known. Also, the rents are cheaper. We're closer to Yosemite. We're closer to Tahoe. This is the jumping off point for the best of California.
I think Governor Brown held every possible office in California at some point in time.
That's a good point. I can't think of another one, though. You're right. And I know this is the first time in Delaware's history. What do you say to, I was telling my wife about this last night. She said, wait, isn't that a step down? And I said, no. So what do you say to that? I'm sure you've heard that.
Everybody says that exact same thing. And my response is actually it's more of a step up. On any given day, it's a harder job. I recently was at the national convention, and my staff said, you need to go down to the Democratic Mayors Association group and talk to the executive director. And so I went down. I didn't know anybody there. I walked around. Then I left, and I met her, Virginia, I think her name is.
Yeah, out Virginia Mayor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's been the executive director for 40 years or something.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you should talk to some of our mayors. I said, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. You know, I got to win this thing first, blah, blah, blah. And I said, by the way, what would they tell me? And she said, they will tell you, what are you going to say the first time shortly after you get elected when a 15-year-old shoots and kills another 15-year-old and the press puts a microphone in your face? And immediately I knew from experience of the current mayor that could happen on any given day. And it was a big wake-up call in the sense that, hey, this is real. But it is a very much granular, on-the-ground job that you make a difference in people's lives every day.
Yes.
No question. No question.
Governor Carney, how are you going to stay fresh? I mean, I think after being governor for 8 years, I found at the end of my second term, there are very few problems that walked into my office that I had not seen at the end of my 8. And one of the things that I talk to my colleagues are about, at the end, people deserve the same attention and passion that you had when we all got started in this space. And so I'd like to talk to you about your leadership style and how you stay fresh. You've run the state for 8 years, had the greatest responsibility in the state. How are you going to be in that mayor's office when, after having been responsible for the state, someone is coming to talk to you about crime on their block? And, you know, how do you slip into having seen it all?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I've actually thought about it in this process of making this decision. And I think it's really about being that much closer to people and having empathy and compassion for whatever it is there, whether it's the tree that's dead, whether it's, a young person that's gets shot in the neighborhood, you name it. It's different. It's right down there where you can feel the emotion at a higher level. Now, we went through the pandemic, and that was rough, trying to get people to do things they didn't want to do.
Sure.
And took a lot out of me and all of us. But I feel like I've got that juice. It's a great question. And I think part of it also is surrounding yourself with good young people who have that fire that you're talking about. But I think you're right. I think it's going to be a challenge. I do believe that I can do it.
And Governor, with that in mind, of course, so to get through the election and you're going to run strong through the tape. But then you're in the office sitting in the big chair. And now you really are dealing with the day to day. What are the 2, 3, 4 things as mayor that you really want to zero in on?
Yeah, and we've talked about public safety for sure. Every neighborhood has to be safe. Every person in each of those neighborhoods, no matter where it is, have to feel safe. And the mayor of Wilmington technically has no authority over our schools, but the mayor has a soapbox that he or she can climb up on and say, this has got to stop. Our children need better. One of the things I did as governor is create what we call the Wilmington Learning Collaborative, where the 3 districts that were ordered by the federal court to educate the children in the city, we're doing it separately with not a lot of overlap. Now working together through the collaborative, the mayor has an appointment to that committee. We have got to improve, starting with pre-K to 3rd grade, the proficiency of our children in those elementary schools, mostly elementary. So a law passed called the Neighborhood Schools Act. Previously, there was a busing order that ordered children to be bused all over the county. That Neighborhood Schools Act, after the state was released from the court order, said that children from grades pre-K to 5th grade have to go to the school closest to where they live. That effectively resegregated a lot of those schools. So within that context, we just need to do a much better job. And I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on that with no real authority. Like I was governor, and the authority around education is so dispersed in school boards and all this kind of thing. It's really difficult I spent 6 years getting this Wilmington Learning Collaborative approved by all the school districts so that we could start making progress and start addressing the issues. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. Like we have a very small percentage of our children at 3rd grade are reading proficiently. I mean, that's just unacceptable.
Governor, I want to reemphasize something you just touched on, and I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. Whether you have the authority over something or not, and when I came into office, the Commonwealth had already taken over schools. We had a school reform commission, 5 members, 3 appointed by the governor, 2 by the mayor. I think every 3rd grader knows that 3 is greater than 2, but the school district building was 6 blocks from my office at City Hall. And, the governor's office is 90 miles away in Harrisburg. So where do you think people are coming? And so my position was, these are my children. I pick up their parents' trash. I think I should have something to say about the quality of education that these young people are receiving. And so, as you said, you do have that bully pulpit. You are and will be the most visible public official in everyone's life.
And Mayor Nutter, didn't you also actually fund the schools? Even though you didn't have authority?
Yeah, the city and the state, it's an appointed school board. It's not an elected school board. So they had to come to us. And I was, okay, well, that's great. Now, these are the things that we're going to work on. This is what we're focused on. I got along with all the other members on the School Reform Commission and the governor. I had 3 governors during my time. But, these are my children. This is what we're going to do. I'm the mayor of the city, and that's the position that I'm taking. And so,
and I intended to use that soapbox, if you will, and we have concrete things like I've always believed it's better to bring people together to make progress than to alienate people. So that'll be my challenge, right?
Yeah.
Now, Governor, has the topic of you actually changing the job from a soapbox to actually having control of the schools come up during the campaign? Is that something that's on your mind?
Hey, well, not really. Only in the sense that my opponent wanted to bring back the old Wilmington public school district. One of the advocates for the desegregation plan said more than once, he actually supported me, that he would take us right back into federal court. But the idea of going back to a school district where a large percentage of the children are growing up in poverty just didn't make a lot of sense to me. It sounds like had a similar relationship back when my father worked for the old public school district that the city of Philadelphia had with the mayor and council back in those pre-1970 years.
Local governments are challenged, use that word, from a personnel standpoint. How are you finding the potential recruitment process for your administration?
Yeah, it's going to be harder than it was for the state government because they were able to pay more. I have fewer appointed positions as mayor than I did as governor. My biggest challenge is to convince the guy that I really need to be the chief of staff, be the number one. Currently, that would mean he'd have to take a pay cut, and so I've got to try to address that.
If you need any help, Governor, we'd be glad to weigh in.
I just may call you. I'm not kidding.
Each of us have been known to be fairly persuasive.
Yeah.
With a call to public service.
He's also like 6'6" and 300 pounds. So like,
So we're not going to challenge him to anything. But if you want
I wouldn't do that.
If you want to give us his number offline, we'd be glad to double team.
Well, you've got a governor and two big city mayors recommending this job to you. So I hope that matters.
That's great. You both, since we've been doing this podcast, you offer very practical advice. And I want to prompt one anecdote from Mayor Reed. Early on, you told a story about advice that I think your mentor, Willie Brown, gave you about, if I remember correctly, taking a different route home every day and stopping somewhere. Give Governor Carney that kind of very practical political advice which is unique to mayors. I think.
Well, Governor Carney is going to be different because he was governor, so everybody in the state knows him. But it'll probably be even as effective. Willie Brown, who was the mayor of San Francisco and the longest serving speaker in the history of California, said that when he decided to go home in the evening, he would build in an extra 30 to 45 minutes, and he would intentionally stop at different locations in different parts of the city. And he said, even if it was a 5 or 10 or 15-minute visit, whether it was to, have a drink of water or club soda or something stronger, or just to grab a grilled cheese sandwich, when a mayor walks into a room, everybody is aware that the mayor is there. And he talked about it, number one, giving him the ability to stay in touch and see people that he typically wouldn't see because you're in a bubble when you're in City Hall and in that office. You're highly insulated and heavily scheduled. And he said that he would find making 2 or 3 stops on the way home got information, because if you're a mayor, people want to tell you things and they want to tell you what's important to them. And he said, all you have to do is be present and listen. And when you get home, you will be amazed at what you've learned about cities outside of the bubble. And so I did it. It was definitely I only won by 714 votes. So I was always thinking about my reelection. And it was a way that gave a feeling that I was everywhere, that I was young, that I worked harder, that I was always at it, because I used to say always at it wins the day. And I typically got home at 10:30, 11 o'clock on most weeknights, Monday through Saturday. But it was one of the most enjoyable parts of the job.
Well, you both know that showing up is, I don't know, 70%, 90%.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And I found that out, I'm sure a lot of people had, who the hell is this Carney guy coming around as a governor? Who's he kidding? He's not going to do anything. Well, guess what? I worked twice as hard as my opponent. I knocked on, she wasn't knocking on any doors.
Yeah.
And they've got this amazing thing now. It's called Ring doorbells. And they're a good thing and a bad thing, right? The bad thing is they can see who you are and they don't want to come to the door. The good thing is you can leave a live, in-person, audio-visual message.
Yes.
And they know you've been there. Right. So to your point, Mr. Mayor, that you can go all over every neighborhood in the city. And those Ring doorbells tell the people who live there that you've been there. And, when people come to the door, all the better. You wouldn't believe how many people came up to me and said, "Hey, I saw you were at my house the other night."
Yeah.
I said, "Why didn't you come to the door?"
What's really super cool is you get to leave a note that the governor stopped by.
Right.
And I promise you that the governor stopped by my house is a story that's told more times than you know.
Oh, yeah.
There's several people sitting in an Applebee's going, "You know what? The governor came by my house the other day. Take a look at this video."
That tape has never been erased. That's some good stuff. I never thought about that. That's it.
Yeah.
I learned about the dead trees and the potholes in the street and all of those. And going back to your initial question, which I think was right on, how do you get motivated? How do you, deal with these issues? It's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
It's a challenge to solve these simple problems that make a huge difference in people's lives, their attitude. Like that tree, this one tree, I tell this story all the time.
I'm going to get a picture of this tree. I want to see it.
When I fix that tree, this lady is going to be so happy.
Yeah.
And she's going to tell everybody on her block.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's going to tell everybody in the neighborhood. Who's going to tell everybody, in that side of the city.
Yeah.
And I've already talked about it enough that, half the people in the city already know that I'm going to get that tree cut down and come hell or high water.
Yeah.
And here's the things I learned. So it turns out my first approach was local legislators get state money for roads. They often use them for other things. So like cutting trees down. So I went to my Secretary of Transportation. I said, "I need to get this tree down." She says, "You can't use state money to cut down a tree on private land." I said, "What?"
Yeah.
This is what's taken me so long. So somewhere along the line, I run into somebody and they say, "Well, you should call Rashiba at Habitat for Humanity." So I call her up yesterday.
Yeah.
And she says to me, "Well, we're only supposed to work on the east side of town, but I'll ask my boss. We do have a fund to cut down trees. I'll ask my boss if I can come over. We'll come out, look at the tree, and cut it down." So I have some daylight at the end of the tunnel here.
Shout out to Jimmy Carter, president of Georgia, Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
Ultimate and constituent service. It is, right? And it really is a job. Governor, you're going to love this job.
And to all our listeners, this is a dead tree.
Yes.
Thank you for qualifying. It is a dead as dead can be tree. And it's a danger to the woman's house, which is why she explained to me in the first instance.
This is like that parrot routine and what is it, Monty Python?
Hello, I wish to register a complaint. I wish to complain about this parrot what I purchased not half an hour ago from this very boutique.
Oh, yes, the Norwegian blue. What's wrong with it?
I'll tell you what's wrong with it. It's dead, that's what's wrong with it.
No, it's resting, look.
Hello, Polly. I got a nice cuttlefish for you when you wake up, Polly Parrot.
There, it moved.
No, it didn't. That was you pushing the desk.
I did not.
Yes, you did.
The tree is dead. Oh, my goodness. You're going to love this job, Governor, of all of your service. The experiences, the stories, the day-to-day engagement with citizens, there really is nothing like it.
Thank you very much. And I think you summarized why I do believe that I can bring forward the energy that is necessary for the job.
No question.
Oh yeah, no, you're ready. I can hear it.
Hey, Governor, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to explain to these guys this really cool tradition in Delaware. Well, I'm actually going to ask you to come with the Republican of your choice to our Ideas We Should Steal festival to tell it. You have a tradition, I think it's the day after Election Day, that's called
Thursday. The Thursday after the Tuesday election.
And it's called the Bury the Hatchet Day?
It's actually called Return Day, no S.
Return Day.
And it comes out of the lower county, Sussex County, so the lower part of our state, and started back when communications were in person, and people would come into the county seat, which in this case is Georgetown, Delaware, and the town crier would announce the results of the election from town hall, and there'd be parades and all kinds of gatherings. At the end of the ceremony, after announcing the results of the election, and by the way, in today's world, when I first ran in 2000, I carried all the districts except one in that lower county. Now I lose the county by 10,000 votes or something. It's turned, kind of like, it's like the South, like where it used to be solid Democrat. But at the end of the ceremony, at the end of the event, they have a burying of the hatchet. And so they have the Republican chair and the Democratic chair and the third party chair, and they get up there on stage. They take a hatchet, they put it in a box, and they take sand from the beach and they bury the hatchet.
Return Day is one of the best Delaware traditions. I was looking forward to Return Day this year more than ever because of all the animosity at the federal level, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for Senator Beeney, so it'll be a pleasant ride with him today.
Of course, it's symbolic for sure, but the idea is, the elections are over, we're Democrats, Republicans, or what have you, and now it's our job to go do the work of the people. But it's a reminder, when I went to Washington as our sole representative, I had to find colleagues because I was a single district rep, and those members from southeastern Pennsylvania and across the river in New Jersey became part of they adopted me as Mayor Nutter said at the outset with respect to then Senator Biden. And, I tried to bring that to D.C. We had a bipartisan breakfast group that met every first day of our week. So it would either be a Monday or Tuesday. And we had Democrats and Republicans, about a dozen or more of us. We tried to find things that we could work on. And I had one issue in particular that affected Delaware, which I went directly to this group to get initial support. It was something that ultimately, after months, we got it done. But yeah, it's a tradition. I think it's important. If nothing else, it's a fun time.
Yeah, I think it's very cool and much needed in these times. And if it's okay with you, we're going to reach out to see if you'd come and actually tell that story at our Ideas We Steal festival. This has been terrific. Can't thank you enough. And we're going to be watching closely. We'd love to have you on again when you start governing and get your impressions of the uniqueness of being a mayor in these times.
Well, it's great to meet Mayor Reed for the first time. I've been a fan of Mayor Nutter's for many years now, since his days as mayor, and followed it more closely than I followed Delaware politicians, because we get all our news from Philadelphia. And by the way, I coached at Penn for a full year.
Wow.
In lacrosse. So I was an employee there, paying Pennsylvania taxes for a short period of time.
We appreciate that, sir.
Can I ask you, Governor, you said that's third or fourth time you've mentioned your father. Talk about the importance of that example, because obviously it's clearly running through your reason for service.
Yeah, my dad was an only child, grew up in West Philadelphia, 54th and Florence, went to MBS and West Catholic and St. Joe's. And, that's religious tradition of service, right? And that's what he did in his life. He had 9 kids. I'm one of 9. I have 8 siblings. And, which was not unusual, frankly, when I was growing up in the Catholic school I went to. I don't know how they did it in those days, but yeah, that was the message that I grew up with, and it's important to me. And obviously, we can't be successful as a state, a city, or a country if we're not educating our children well. And I don't know, we don't always approach it with a sense of urgency. We accept things that we shouldn't accept, and particularly from, frankly, Black and brown kids growing up in urban areas, frankly. And we just need to do better. And in a small way, in a small city, I hope to be able to do something there.
Yeah. Governor, on the advice piece, because of something you just said, what I would say to you is be impatient.
It's great advice.
Every day. Be impatient.
Nicely said. Hear, hear.
And drive that organization.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Governor, thank you. We look forward to talking to you when you're a mayor.
Can't wait.
Thanks, man.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Guys, this was great. What do you think of, there's a governor who wants to be mayor. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Jerry Brown did a pretty good job at Oakland.
Yeah.
It's
It's very cool. I'm interested in checking in with him, 9 months into his mayoralty or whatever.
He'll have some reflections, I'm sure.
I can't wait to hear about his first 100 days.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, to have a knowledge base like that.
Exactly. That's where I was going. He starts with an advantage.
Maybe we'll make a point to hit him up at the 100-day mark.
Yeah.
That would be a very good program.
Yeah. Well, as always, gentlemen, two very sartorially dressed guys today. Very impressive.
You can never get to the Reed level. I'm bringing up the rear.
But you know what? You closed the program in a beautiful fashion. That was terrific advice to close this out.
Be impatient.
Always be impatient, man.
And it was so much better than what I was going to say, that you should be from the University of We Gon' See.
We gonna see.
We gonna see. I was debating somebody about Donald Trump the other day, and they were talking about how he was going to be Kamala Harris. I said, well, let me tell you, I'm from the University of We Gonna See.
I love that.
Well, Bobby Womack politics.
Bobby Womack School of Government.
University of We Gonna See.
Listen, guys, as always, this has been so much fun and also enlightening.
Yeah.
So join us next time for How to Really Run a City. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, dudes. This was great. This was a lot of fun.
Sorry I was late getting in.
Hey, that's part of the fun, actually.
Yeah,
I like the sort of gonzo way we do this.
I'm going to have to listen to the beginning of it to hear all the shit that y'all were talking before I got in.
It wasn't as bad as when Mayor Reed wasn't here. We were trying to guess what kind of car he was driving.
Yeah, that was a good one. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
I'll see you. Bye.